All right.
Cool. Well, once again, thank you everyone for joining us on this webinar today. This webinar will be recorded and will be available on our website shortly after the webinar ends. There will be a section for Q&A at the end, but by all means, feel free to ask your questions as the webinar is going along, and we will get to them at the end of the webinar. There's a questions section within the GoToWebinar application that you can type in your questions, and either myself or Robert, who will be co-hosting this webinar, will answer them at the end. Today's webinar is part of our Partner Spotlight series, and we're happy to have our friends from Less Pain Software who will be showing us their Kyno application, and as well as we'll be looking at how this integrates with FileCatalyst. So Kyno is a lightweight media management application, and we've done some work to integrate some of the tools within the FileCatalyst Direct suite of applications in order to allow people to control the movement of media within their network, within their environments, and so on. As part of this webinar, we will be showing you a couple of demos. We'll show you a quick demo on the Kyno app, as well as how we integrate with FileCatalyst. My name is Elton Canero, and I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships and Cloud Services here at FileCatalyst. And along with me today on this webinar is Robert Kruger from Less Pain Software.
Hi, everybody. Good to be here. Thanks, Elton, for having me on the show.
Yeah, it's good. It'll be a fun one. Then thanks for taking the time to join us as well. So to begin with, we'll just a bit about FileCatalyst. FileCatalyst is a secure, efficient, and reliable protocol that allows you to move content, move assets, move files across your network at full line speed. It's a patented UDP algorithm that focuses on negative acknowledgements, so we acknowledge only the packets that are missing, and it makes us allows to fully saturate our pipe when it comes to transferring large files. With lots of experience in this space, we've been around for close to 17 years. We've done a lot of work over the past few years to support the need object storage and the growing object storage requirements in the media space. We have a lot of tools for administering your transfers on your network, see what's going on when a transfer is successful, when a transfer fails, what are the reasons for that, as well as we've done a lot of work to expose APIs to allow some of our partners to consume those APIs and embed our core file transfer solution within the applications, so your users can have a single UI, single interface to interact with and benefit from high-speed transfers. Last but not least, the FileCatalyst applications are very easy to use. It doesn't take long to get set up, and once you're set up, you can experience and benefit high-speed transfers. So the next slide will show us that we've been accomplished in the media and broadcast space. We've won 2 Emmys, one for our work around the Winter Games, the Winter Olympic Games, and the other one just an industry award that we've been recognized as one of the major players when it comes to accelerated high-speed transfers and so on. Some of our customers, we have a number of customers, because FileCatalyst is a pure file transfer application. We can serve across many different verticals. Media and broadcast is one of the major verticals we sell into, but we also support customers from oil and gas, energy, healthcare, corporate IT, and so on. And these are some of our customers that are proudly using FileCatalyst to date. And I believe at this point, I'd like to introduce Robert, who will be talking to you about Kyno. Robert, back.
Yeah, thanks, Elton. For those of you who have not heard anything about Kyno, I will take some more time to introduce the application and then later focus on the integration with FileCatalyst product suite. Kyno is, as Elton has already mentioned, a media management application that runs on the desktop, so there's no server installation involved. That means very easy. It's a very easy to install, very easy to use tool, very lightweight, and it's mainly used by people in film, television, news professionals, correspondents, editorial staff, marketing, social media professionals, and photographers. But essentially, it's something that helps a lot of people, or basically anyone dealing with huge volumes of video or media files in general. And what we have seen, which you will later see by example, is that there are also many industries that are not traditionally media and entertainment industries that nowadays have to deal with a surge of video assets that they simply have to deal with, be it for documentation or presentation or social media. So this really transcends into the non-media and entertainment space as well. As a kind of teaser to give you an impression of how it looks, I will just quickly play 2 minutes of our product video.
Introducing Kyno, a revolutionary new way to work with video content. Kyno solves frustrating tasks in one easy-to-use app, bringing powerful media management into the hands of everyone. Take the hassle out of your workflow. Screen and quality check material in a huge range of industry-standard formats via a state-of-the-art video player, with no import or transcoding required. You can play your clips directly from SD cards or wherever they are stored. Using accurate speed controls, you can see how high frame rate footage will look in your editing frame rate, and you can apply widescreen bars to see if your image will work in that format. Use markers and subclips for instant organization if you just keep the camera rolling, and easily send logged and tagged clips to Final Cut and Premiere for editing. Quickly find, filter, and browse footage on SD cards or removable drives with super fast searching. Media-aware filters make it incredibly easy to find the clips you need. Organize footage using the media-aware batch renaming function, and batch transcode or rewrap your footage for editing or your finished product for distribution. Transcode or conform your footage to any frame rate, and fine-tune output file names using Kyno's powerful naming feature. With markers, you can also efficiently export large amounts of still frames for blogs, social media, or just to capture the perfect stills from your high-res footage. You can even do that in one simple step for a number of clips. Provide colleagues with feedback on a rough cut using markers and Excel export. Organize your material with tags and ratings. And quickly create and export subclips to access the parts you really need for editing or DVD menus. Kyno, the revolutionary new desktop app for people that love video.
Don't worry if that was too fast, because I will, in the presentation or in the demo, I will show you the key features of Kyno with a lot more time. So I'm aware that this is a bit much to digest in 2 minutes, but I just wanted to give you a feel of what grounds Kyno covers. The main application areas of Kyno are material preview, quality checks and selection and logging in the field, typically done by camera teams, field producers, or production assistants. It's used a lot in classic post-production shops or post-production departments. For local media organization, basically regardless of the specialization, we have, for example, agencies, marketing departments organizing their local media assets or their NAS, where they have all their stock videos and images or project videos and images in Kyno. And as you may have seen in the video, as a communication tool, especially using features like the marker-based Excel export for producing things like shot lists, or do transcriptions, or do feedback loops with agencies, stuff like that. What makes it different from most other applications in the area is its ease of use and its speed, this combination. You have a lot of applications that have some functional overlaps with Kyno, but none of them has the completeness, the speed, and in terms of how fast you learn how to use it and how fast you get your work done as Kyno. We have people rolling this out without a manual, without extensive training, and in larger organizations, and this is one of the key assets that Kyno brings to the table. Workflow flexibility means that Kyno is not a linear workflow tool that forces you into one type of workflow. It's rather a very, very pragmatic and easy-to-use tool set. And we do have some core workflows that we advise people to use for certain applications, but we are surprised almost every week by the feedback we get from our customers, how they use Kyno in their workflows, and the possibilities seem infinite in how they combine all those basic and well-integrated tools to match their workflow requirements. It has an unrivaled media type and format support. For example, camera teams at Al Jazeera and other news people have praised us for producing a tool that lets them QC and quality check all their material regardless of how many cameras they have used in their shoot. I mean, the format range nowadays has totally exploded with drones, GoPros, and everything transcending into the professional space. People even at broadcasters now produce with DSLRs. So this is one of the key things that Kyno brings to the table. And a lot of our customers have given us the feedback that although Kyno is not a typical MAM, and we don't promote it as a MAM, for them it brings the power and the functionality of a MAM that they need for their media management applications. And it's super lightweight compared to a bulky server-based application. It supports any of the common sources for media data. That means you can work directly off SD cards or local or removable drives or on big NAS solutions. And it's multi-platform. The Windows version, the Mac version was the first one we launched. The Windows version is coming out this month, but you can already download a very stable beta. And what we mean by the right tool for consolidating enterprises in a converging media world is that the media industry has seen some significant changes in that many of the techniques and technologies that YouTubers and all the social media the people driving social media have introduced have now become mainstream even in traditional broadcast enterprises. So everyone is using more or less the same tools. That is sort of the convergence aspect of it. And Kyno being a tool that covers the grounds that usually people cover using 3 to 4 different applications, and both being very popular with young social media, YouTuber that kind of audience, and battle-hardened broadcast people with 30 years experience. That makes Kyno a perfect match for someone going into a modern direction in this media world. We have a wide range of users ranging from classic broadcasters and news houses up to the German Football League and sports marketing companies, and the airport Munich, very unlikely candidates, as I mentioned before. The non-media industries are also very happy about Kyno. We've received in these 1.5 years that we've been out praised by all the major media outlets in this area. We were product of the year 2016 by the global platform newsshooter.com, and Larry Jordan called us the most full-featured media management system he's ever seen, so that makes us pretty proud about this first 1.5 years. I'm now just going to quickly take you through the Kyno user interface with a little more time than in the product video. This is the Kyno window. We have a very Explorer or Finder or File Explorer-like appearance, which makes it very easy to use for people who have never used it before. We get excellent feedback for that. The basic way of using it, I'm not even going to explain in detail because it's just a file explorer-like user interface. The only thing I should explain up here is this workspace is kind of a favorite area where I have prepared all the folders that are relevant for a certain project. Now I have prepared some that are interesting for this demo and for the upcoming presentations. And the main way of using it is just browsing folders and browsing folder structures. And this here is, for example, is a typical folder structure that you find on big NAS systems for at basically all the big broadcasters or big production companies we have talked to. And what you see right here is that these folder structures make it sometimes very hard and tedious to find things. And this is why we came up with a drill down function, which I'm going to activate here. And that is a very easy and pragmatic way to flatten the folder structures and thus really visually browse and narrow your search range, and this way being able to visually find your media assets very, very quickly. And if you combine this with filtering, for example, let's say I have tagged a few things like with the tag industry. These assets I can find pretty easily. I have tagged things with the tag animals. This searches in all metadata that was added. It searches in file names, very easy to understand. We have filters for technical metadata, like for example, let's narrow this down to 4K footage and then find the drone things. This is almost, and this is all done in real time on your drive, so there's no ingest. That's a very, very important point about Kyno. One thing that was already featured in the product video was that we have a professional player integrated in Kyno that plays all the relevant formats on the market, and this player has all the features that you normally expect from professional players and editing applications. That's marker support, frame accurate searching, frame accurate seeking. You have timecode support. You can quickly browse the content here in this content preview pane. You can add, you can select and mark and add and comment ranges in the subclips area, and then can play them back very, very simply. And thus prepare the material for your team at home or for the next production stage for yourself. You get rich metadata display, and you can, this way you can very easily go through your footage post-shoot and organize your content and add the metadata that maybe the editors will need. Let me just demonstrate how I set a subclip here. Just find in the player. Nice. I set an endpoint. Play back a few seconds of this boat running. So I type S for subclip. The subclip appears, and I type S again to give the subclip a name, and then add an editorial note. This is nice for the opening. You get the idea. And now the basic workflow with Kyno is you browse your material, you find it on the drive, you prepare it for the next steps, and then you can do lots of things with it. You can transcode it as you have seen in the video. Or, for example, with all the metadata added, you can send it to your NLE. In this case, I'll just demo sending it to Premiere Pro. And what you see here is that all the things that I have, all the things that I have already marked in here all the subclips appear as subclips in Premiere Pro. So I have my editing project. I basically have my rough cut almost done. I can make a rough cut in a few seconds now. Or I can use the full clips, and here you see the subclips are in the footage, in the editing project as markers. And that is like the perfect start for an editing project. All right. You can do lots of other things. You can export a clip inventory or shot list in Excel. If you don't have enough time to go into too many of those application areas, do go to our website and watch the other tutorials, or contact us after this presentation. I'll finish this for now and return to the presentation, but we'll come back to the Kyno demonstration when we demonstrate more of the FileCatalyst integration. You are probably familiar with the Hotfolder application as part of the FileCatalyst product suite. Hotfolder, for anyone who does not know it, is a desktop application that you install that allows you to basically configure things like watch folders that then transfer, based on certain policies, transfer files to FileCatalyst servers. And what FileCatalyst have developed recently is the possibility to implement plugins for that Hotfolder application. And because the Hotfolder application is, as the entire FileCatalyst product suite, is a media agnostic, more or less media agnostic product. That means that it treats files as generic files. But in some cases, you might want to use certain things that you know about a file that require special knowledge or analysis in your rules for transferring or not transferring files to a given location or a given server. And that was where we talked, when we first talked at NAB this year, we both thought putting the technology behind FileCatalyst and Kyno together using this new plugin infrastructure would be a perfect way to give FileCatalyst users the power of the Kyno metadata analysis capabilities within their workflows. And that's what the Hotfolder Kyno plugin does. It introduces a new, very powerful filter option on the client side. And what that gives you is, it gives you the option to reject files not matching delivery specs. And that directly translates into avoiding costly mistakes. Because anyone knows, if you transfer 20 gigabyte file and then someone else downloads it and then sees, oh no, it's not XDCAM, it should have been XDCAM because or it has a bit rate that doesn't meet the specs for news delivery or something like this. Only having the QC at the destination makes this very, very prone to expensive errors, and that's what the new Hotfolder Kyno plugin can save you from. And the other thing that I'm going to demonstrate after this slide is you can also use the combination of the Kyno application and FileCatalyst Hotfolder with the Kyno plugin to even to add even more workflow options based on descriptive metadata. Just to give you an example of what filter rules can now do using the new Kyno application. This might look a bit technical, so I'll better translate this. This is a filter rule that an admin has defined that in this case rejects anything that is not either in a QuickTime or in an MXF container. Anything that's not, anything that's interlaced is rejected. Anything that's not that does not have a frame rate of 25 frames, and in this case it's 25p, of course, because of interlaced not being allowed. The resolution is an HD solution, and it is specifically checked for the codec and some more properties that it is an XDCAM HD422 file, and it requires the file to have 8 audio tracks and an audio sample rate of 48 kilohertz, which is basically the standard delivery specification for a lot of broadcast houses. Another example would be for a web version ingest, where you would require an MP4 container, a progressive format, also in this case HD, an H.264 codec, and here you see the power of the expression language that is part of the Kyno Hotfolder plugin. You can even specify ranges. So in this case, you accept anything between 10 and 20 megabit. In this case, you say for a web version, I only want one audio track. I want an audio sample rate of 48 kilohertz, and I want this restricted to stereo files in this case, and an audio codec of AAC. And then again, for the audio bit rate, I specify a range, in this case 128K to 260K, to give it a bit of headroom for variations of your encoder. And the other example that you could add to any of the other examples is to add restrictions based on the metadata that you have seen within the Kyno application, partly in the product video that I've shown you, and partly in the short demonstration. In this case, I, for example, have a condition that restricts the files to be transferred to files that at least have a 1-star rating. The rating system goes from 0 to 5 stars in Kyno, so this rule would restrict files transferred to ones having at least 1 star, and this other condition would restrict files to having the tag Seattle, which, for example, you could use within Hotfolder to say that this Hotfolder is only to accept files that are tagged with Seattle as a destination. All right, so much for the theoretical part. Let's just see the whole thing in action. I already have the FileCatalyst Hotfolder application running. Let me send the presentation in the background. Let's start. I have here in this case, I have configured in the scheduler 2 tasks, and both tasks use the new Hotfolder plugin, the Kyno plugin, but they have different rules, and I'm going to show you those rules and then show you what happens if we apply them. In this case, this is the configuration file that your admins would use to set up such a rule. In the first case, we have a specification that is very similar to the one that that I have already shown in the first sample slide, and that is it requires an XDCAM format, which can be in either an MXF or a QuickTime container, and it requires 25p HD XDCAM HD422 to at least or exactly 8 audio tracks and audio sample rate of 48 kilohertz. So I have prepared a number of assets. Those are very boring assets as you see, but I had to choose a very, very short one so the transfer doesn't take too much time of the presentation. Here you see those assets. You see the technical metadata within Kyno. The first one is actually the one that matches our specification. It's an XDCAM HD422, 1080p. You can see here the display size, the resolution, frame rate 25p. And all of the others have something that doesn't match. For example, here you have 720p instead of instead of full HD, you have 50i, you have the wrong frame rate, well, you get the idea. Let me just copy this into the hot folder within Kyno. Now we have all the files in the hot folder, and in this case, so you see what happens, the hot folder I have defined is not one that transfers automatically or transfers using a schedule. In this case, it's one that transfers manually. I called it news ingest because I'm simulating a news organization. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start the transfer, and we're going to see what happens here. So you already see here that it's transferring this file, this 1080 to 25p with 8 tracks. And if the transfer is finished, let's wait a few seconds more. You see the transfer is finished, and it has just transferred one of those 4 files, and I'm not going to go through the details in the logs, but in the logs you will see that the filter rejected each of the other 3 files based on the technical metadata. And just to make sure that this has really happened, I'm just going to connect with the server, and I'm going to show you the file in the ingest folder. This is the ingest folder for news, and here you see this is the file that arrived. All the others remained here. So the local quality check has worked as it should. For the other example, let's show you the configuration, because that adds the possibility of using Kyno descriptive metadata to further control the material flow. And this basically does the same thing as far as the technical metadata is concerned. It's also XDCAM, 25p, full HD, 8 tracks audio. I only added this condition here, and that means, okay, it has to have at least a 1-star rating, and that means you can this way you can implement a very easy kind of QC workflow where people work in this, where you have the incoming folder for your material as your hot folder, and then you have your QC personnel, and hot folder doesn't transfer anything until the QC personnel has given the material the respective rating. And just to prove that it doesn't transfer it as it is now, I'm going to go into the scheduler and going to open the QC ingest. That's the one that I just showed you the configuration for, and start the transfer. And oh, you see the transfer has finished because it didn't find any file to transfer. It says one file's directory is checked, and it didn't transfer any file, which is exactly what it was supposed to do. And now I'll simulate doing the QC. This is the only file that will transfer anyway, because this is the one matching the specs. But yeah, I've watched this exciting file. I see it is good enough, and I'll give it a 3-star rating here. And yeah, then next time I start the hot folder scheduler for this task, which normally in such a workflow setup would happen automatically. You see when I start the transfer, now you see it picks up the file. And that's because the filter has found the descriptive metadata, which, that's the technical side note that's important to understand for organizing your workflows, is stored in the file system. There's no obscure kind of database or server needed. You can organize your team workflows. Your team can work on shared drives, on NAS, or even pass around removable drives. And the metadata will always stay close to the file. It's not stored within the file. It's stored in separate hidden files. But this way you can organize a very, very powerful workflow just using a shared drive, using Kyno and using FileCatalyst, and being creative with the new FileCatalyst Hotfolder plugin, defining your custom acceptance rules. All right, and to get to the last point of the presentation, what is brand new and nobody has seen before is the possibility to do file transfers within Kyno, which is something that is very, very typical for news teams in the field, where you typically shoot much more material than you need in your final broadcast. And the problem is that people face is to deliver that kind of material fast to their network. And Kyno with the new transfer integration goes even one step further than the integration that I've just shown you. I'll just demonstrate you a quick two-step workflow. You have already seen that I have pre-selected only parts of the material using the Kyno subclip metadata functionality. And what I can do very, very easily in Kyno is just extract the material that was selected. And so we reduce the material that needs to be transferred dramatically. I do this using the export subclip function. In this case, I export it in a subfolder that is called selection, and the project is called US Mexico 2016. It's already using the Kyno naming engine to enforce a naming convention, but I don't have time to go into the details here. Just let it do its job in the background. This is super fast. You see the subclipping task running here and already being finished. This is super fast because I did this without re-encoding, which is something also unique to Kyno. You can select your subclips and intelligently rewrap those portions, and we have dramatically reduced the material. And what you can do now is, I'm just going to take two of those files because just to make sure the transfer doesn't block us for too long. You can now just select your subclips and then select in the new Deliver To menu this FileCatalyst destination here. And, it connects to a FileCatalyst server, and then I'll just give it a project name. Let's say this is FileCatalyst Webinar, and I can select the destination folder on the server. I'll also use the Ingest News folder, and I have a few options what I can have Kyno, which is now doing a media-aware transfer, generate in the background. It generates a project folder with a naming convention. It generates an Excel clip inventory for all the things that I send over, and it adds all the Kyno descriptive metadata. So what I do now is I just hit this transfer button, and Kyno now in the background does a regular FileCatalyst transfer, which is, as we all know, extremely fast due to the FileCatalyst acceleration protocol. What I'll show you while the transfer is running is what it sends, because the time is running out, what it sends with those media files. I'll open the folder, I'll open something I have already prepared just in the file browser. Let me check. There it is. This is what gets sent to your team as part of this workflow without any further interaction by your people. This is all the metadata that people have added in the field, and it gets sent first. So the first thing that arrives that, for example, your producer your producer in the net, at the office, in the network, the first thing that arrives is this super lightweight and super handy Excel sheet. And what also gets transferred with all the media data is all the Kyno metadata, all the ratings, tags, subclips in a format that someone on the receiving end can use within Kyno. And what we will also add until we launch this feature at the end of November is that you will have the option to add the metadata in Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro format, so you can send a super neatly prepared package to your editing team back home. And just to prove that this was not a fake, we'll again connect with the server. All right, here you see this is the project folder that was generated by the integrated upload functionality. And if we go into this folder, you see, well, this LP store directory, that's where the metadata is. You see that we have all the files, all the subclips that we transferred. We see the shot list and the clip inventory as Excel files. And I'm just going to quickly download this so we can see what we uploaded. No, we'll just take a few seconds because my downlink is a lot faster than the uplink. All right, and now you see I've just used it outside of Kyno, so there's no way to trick you here. This is the material that I just downloaded, and you see all the metadata, all the ratings, all the tags, everything is intact, and I have a complete round trip of metadata for my team in the field, super easy to use for them, and that is just an additional super powerful option that is definitely going to make life easier for news organizations and similar organizations working in a distributed fashion. The outlook for the end of 2017 is that the transfer integration that I've just demoed will be available, that the Hotfolder plugin, which Elton from FileCatalyst can provide you as a demo version right now, will be available on the market, and there will be the official Windows release of Kyno, which is anticipated by a lot of broadcasters right now, especially in Europe. And as part of this release, we will have a number of premium and enterprise features more, which you should be prepared for by just signing up to our newsletter, and just keep up to date with Kyno, because it's going to be quite an exciting end of 2017. Thanks a lot for your attention, and back to Elton.
Yeah, Robert, thank you very much. That was great. I mean, the demos were quite amazing. You can definitely see how the combined solutions can improve, and reduce the time, but also improve, how you do file movement within your network, how you handle movement of files, and prevent a lot of mistakes from happening by simple, making sure you have simple QC at the source. So those demos were really good, and Kyno is a great application. I was watching you go to the app, and I was like, wow, you can do a lot of this stuff. And even for us as a file transfer company, we handle a lot of media for our webinars and for our marketing, and it looks like a pretty good tool that we could definitely benefit from as well. But yeah, I mean, it's really for anyone out there who's basically handling with media. So but yeah, no, thank you very much for for all of that. I know we are running out of time, but at this point we'll open up for if anyone has any questions. We'll reserve a couple of minutes for questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to to ask them in the GoToWebinar panel. There's a cool little questions section there. Type in your question and we'll answer it. But and as we're waiting for some questions to come in, Robert, maybe you can talk a bit more about how does someone go to acquiring a license or go to getting the app for themselves or for their team, and a bit what's that process look like for the end customer and the user?
Yeah, the process, well, there are two options. First of all, we have a very, very simple web shop where you can download a 30-day fully functional trial for both operating system versions, and then you can buy your license in the web shop. Or if you are a larger enterprise, then you should definitely write to sales@lesspain.software and contact us, because we have some options, especially for larger enterprises, that are not available via the shop, with additional functionality within Kyno that you won't see in the version that's currently downloadable as a trial. But those are basically the two entry points. And that will change until the end of the year. Then we will have a larger reseller network in place, but as of now, up until now, it's the way I just described.
And I guess another question that I'm seeing coming in is, can two users who have their own individual Kyno app, I guess, collaborate on the content they're working on through using a FileCatalyst server? So definitely, based on some of the demos you showed us today, you could have one user use the transfer feature that transfers files up to the FileCatalyst server, and then the second user could have a hot folder that's set up as a schedule to download files from the FileCatalyst server.
Absolutely.
That get brought right into your workspace within Kyno. So you can have users creating subclips, working, collaborating from two different Kyno apps, just using a simple FileCatalyst server sitting in the middle.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the amount of variations is almost infinite. I mean, because FileCatalyst is such a flexible tool, and with the new plugin and Kyno all being rather generic and very powerful, I think you can build quite a few different collaborative setups with this. Yeah,
no, great, absolutely. Yeah, so unfortunately we've run out of time. We've gone a few minutes over our allotted time, but I want to take this time to thank you, Robert. Thank you very much for joining me on this webinar and actually driving most of the webinar. It was great for some of our users to see Kyno. And for those who missed this webinar will be available on our website. We'll be sharing with with the Kyno team, and they'll place it on their website as well. But if you have any questions, there are a couple of email addresses on the next slide that you can send us emails to if you have questions about the webinar, you want to learn more information. Yeah, so the two emails, techpartners@filecatalyst.com or info@lesspainsoftware. Feel free to shoot us an email. We're here to help you guys out if you have any questions, or if you have any specific workflows that you're not sure that we can handle, by all means inform us and we'll see how we can help you out. But other than that, thank you very much everyone for joining us today, and I hope you guys have a good weekend coming up. Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, Elton.
Cheers.